This combination is called drama. The sensitivity gives you the power of feeling big emotions, and you need big emotions to be obsessive enough to dedicate all of that time in your life for something like painting. Where did I put the spatula? Here. I never think about how the viewer interprets my paintings. I hope it brings joy. I hope it brings something to think about. I think art should help you question and think, but I focus on making the best work I could, and hopefully, if I do a good job, it will reflect and will have an impact into the viewer. So I always love paper and I always love colors. It comes since I'm little. In fact, I remember I will always carry a notebook with me. When my parents will go with friends and sitting in dinners, I will always carry a notebook to do some drawing. I was never good playing with toys. So I have this love for texture and different colors, and I like to work with all sorts of things. Like sometimes I will work with charcoal, but sometimes if I am at home, I will just do something with watercolors. But it's a kind of a connection I had since I was very young. I think my love of painting, it didn't come from anybody in the family, or, I didn't go to museums when I was little. It's just something very intuitive. I remember when I was 4 or 5, I had this feeling, and I asked my mother to take me to extracurricular art school. So since the age of 5 until 17, I used to go every afternoon to the art school. My father actually will take me with a motorcycle, and he has this great love and commitment to take me like every day for like 1 or 2 hours, and that's how I spent my childhood. So it came from early age. So the process in the studio is different. Like my energy towards drawing and painting is kind of different. And when I sketch or work on paper, normally it's a small scale. And I think it's a very intimate moment for me where I kind of sip my coffee and think a little bit about my day. And then I gather all the images I have, and I start a composition that might work for the painting. Painting as a contrast is very physical for me. I tend to don't think at all. It's more energetic and visceral. So I think these two have a completely different energy, sketching and painting. And then what it could be the bridge in between these two universes is a charcoal. And with charcoal, I do make the composition of the painting, but in a big scale. So I think these three processes really tells you about how I start and finish the painting. I would say, for me, painting is creating a universe on my own. So it's my safe space, and I have full control what is happening. It's just not in the moment I'm actually with the canvas, in front of the canvas, but then I think the painting sort of expands and into this universe. So when I will walk around and in the streets, and I might see something weird in the trash, and I will pick up some colors from there, or I'm talking with a friend and they say something that I find it interesting, that everything else becomes part of my painting because it's part of that universe. So it's just not what happens in the studio, but what happens in my life, and I try to bring it into my own perspective in the studio. That's why, like, the music I choose, or like what I eat, or what do I wear, everything has an effect in the studio. I am fascinated by color, and I use color depending on my energy. Like I tend to go a lot fleshy colors, but also deep reds and deep burgundies and or blues, because it helps with the contrast with the figures. There are certain colors that, yeah, I find more interesting to use. Like I found pleasure working with reds or pinks and blue at the times. But I never think too much about the choice of colors. It just happened intuitively that I choose one color or the other. I think painting is like dancing when it's a good painting, because when you dance you don't really think too much of what you're doing, you just follow what your body says. So I think when you are very focused in a painting and you're deeply connected with your emotions and pain, it's like you move in a way where you are like dancing. I paint the female nude because, first of all, it's the image I know the most, and it feels more real to me. The shape and the forms and how I can explore. You have infinite ways of depicting a woman, but I was also aiming to portray universal emotions through women's bodies, so not any particular story. Now, in this show that you see here, I use the female body to tell stories, and it's a story based on Lorca's work. I'm gonna be having my first solo show in an institution, and it's been organized by the Lorca Foundation. Federico García Lorca was a very famous Spanish poet. So I went to Granada, and I did a lot of research of his archival. It has been the first time that I had to think about somebody else's work. It has been challenging because I was in a moment in my career where I was like pushing toward abstraction, and now I felt like I needed the figuration again in order to represent better certain ideas. Symbols appear here, symbols and like allegories. So I needed to use the figure a little bit more realism. And I think it's good to challenge yourself, because otherwise you will keep doing what you already mastered, I think. And by pushing yourself to certain areas that you don't know how it's gonna look like is where the grow happens. And then you change a little bit, and then probably this body work is going to help me do the next move. So it's been fun, and it's been difficult at times, but I'm very happy with the results. I look at names like Paula Rigo or Francis Bacon, Lucian Freud. I look also at the abstract expressionists like William de Kooning or Joan Mitchell, because especially de Kooning, he started, if I'm not wrong, with abstraction, figuration, then completely abstraction, and then he will find a middle point in between these two universes, figuration and abstraction. So I really look up to William. But the way I paint, I think, is very energetic, so abstract expression is a good reference for me. All Cristina BanBan paintings are Cristina BanBan. I think I cannot separate myself from my work. For a long time, I used my own body, so you could say they were self-portraits. Sometimes even if I use models, because I know my face so much, they kind of look alike me. But in this universe of woman, I see myself in it too. And I think they become like doppelgangers. And I feel like even if you don't see my face, they are part of me and I'm part of them. I am aware of that, the whole background in art history, and I am aware also that the themes as a portraiture or the female nude are traditional themes in art history, but I think the twist here is coming from a perspective of a woman. Melancholy is a great state of mind because it's sadness, but also you can connect with yourself. Yes, you can see in my paintings because they are all kind of looking melancholic. I like to have that open narrative for the viewer to interpret that as they might like, but I also think it responds to my own persona in a certain way. Well, when you are by yourself in the studio, you could be very grateful because you are your own boss and you can do whatever you like. But at the same time, you spend many hours with yourself and your thoughts, and it could be also like a trap. It's not easy at the beginning, but then it's a blessing if you just enjoy the process. And you have to be careful with the demand, because if you just follow painting as a job, as a worried about sales or worried about too much about shows, it becomes more as an obligation or a job, whether I try to always enjoy my process of painting. So when I work, I am not always happy, but it's my happy place, the studio. When I have big emotions, I like to put them in my work, and I think it helps me to go through life. So big emotions are always the best to come to the studio, and then I relieve. But yeah, I will say sometimes I come with a bad mood or problems I might have in my personal life or in the world, and then I come here, and after a few hours working, I feel much better. So very important to clean after you work. This way you don't have like dirty colors.